Our reality is we're not going to be able to do everything for everybody, but there are some extraordinarily vulnerable people and families across our country now. You mentioned the unemployment. Just after Christmas, you're going to have unemployment benefits that people have relied on and have been a lifeline for them. And that's not responsible. So your question is, can it happen? Can we do this? And the answer is yes. And I think that what we've demonstrated when you bring together not only Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, but Republicans and Democrats in the House, the Problem Solvers Caucus have joined with us in the effort that we've built to demonstrate that people of goodwill coming together can figure out a path forward.
Do you think people appreciate, Senator, that time is of the essence, that many people in this country are barely holding on?
I think those who are without jobs understand the urgency. I think those who are literally panicked about the ability to provide for additional staff in their hospitals as they're just being slammed by these additional coronavirus cases. I think they know the urgency. For those who are fearful that their ability to pay their rent, to stay in their home, with the potential ending of rental assistance, I think they feel the urgency. I think the many people who sit in a car in a mile away from a food bank waiting to get some assistance with basic food needs, I think they feel the urgency. We in Congress need to reflect that urgency. We shouldn't delay any longer.
But do you think that politicians on Capitol Hill understand the urgency? Yes, you should reflect it, but do they truly appreciate it?
I need to know in my heart that they do appreciate it, because the urgency is so real, the need is so real, the immediacy is so real. And if we are really in this insulated, isolated bubble back here, that we fail to hear the needs of our constituency, shame on us.
Do you believe this will be accomplished before the holiday break?
I believe that we will pass coronavirus emergency relief before we adjourn at the end of this year. I believe we will.
On Monday, Senator, you said that you think President Trump should concede that the race is over. Only a handful of your colleagues have acknowledged Biden's win. What prompted you to finally speak up?
Yes, I think it is time. You have had states certify their election results. These states that were in play, if you will, these states where the president had put forth challenges to the electoral process and to the counting, and they had failed. And so at some point in time, it is very clear that there is no path forward. And so to continue to contest, I think, is not only counterproductive, but I think it can be destructive to the confidence of the people in our own election process.
How much damage do you believe the president is doing by continuing to claim that this election was rigged?
So I do worry about the confidence that the public has in our systems when you continue to call out something that has been reviewed, it's been considered fairly, and it has been concluded that you did not have this abuse, you did not have the fraud or the corruption. And so once that has been determined, to continue to make these suggestions, I think is destructive, and it should end.
For some people, the silence of the GOP is deafening. Georgia elections official Gabriel Sterling dramatically condemned President Trump and other Republicans. I'm not sure if you heard this, Senator, for not speaking out against violent threats and harassment that's been directed at 2020 election workers.
Mr. President, you have not condemned these actions or this language. Senators, you have not condemned this language or these actions. This has to stop. We need you to step up, and if you're going to take a position of leadership, show some. This is elections. This is the backbone of democracy, and all of you who have not said a damn word are complicit in this.
Why haven't more Republicans spoken out?
You know, I would say that people have their own reasons for saying what they say or not saying anything at all. I have taken the approach that I want to be cautious. I wouldn't want to get out and make a presumption that was not backed by the facts. But to me, when you have your states certify the elections as they have, to me, that's pretty uncontrovertible. And so the fact that you have many who have just chosen not to acknowledge that, I find that, quite honestly, a bit perplexing at this point in time. But I can't speak for them. I can only speak for myself. I see what I see, and I see what so many around this country see, which is the obvious. And the obvious is that President-elect Biden will be our 46th president. He will be sworn in January. The people of this country have weighed in, and they have weighed in a significant way in terms of the number of people who have gotten out and voiced their support. We have seen that. There have been challenges that have been made through the courts, as is fully appropriate if you feel that there were matters that could be raised. But once those have been raised and disposed of, as they have, we need to move on. We need to move forward. The Biden team needs to be able to come together so that they can assume the office in January, as is set out under the Constitution.
Senator Murkowski, you described the behavior of some of your GOP colleagues as perplexing, but I was wondering if you could help us understand the psychology behind this. Are they afraid, in your view, to be blasted on Twitter? Are they worried about keeping the president's base happy? Why the silence?
Well, again, I can't speculate for the motivations of any of my colleagues, but I can just say it is pretty impressive to know that some 74 million people said that they wanted President Trump to serve a second term. That's pretty significant. And I think that's important for all of us to acknowledge that base of support is considerable. And so perhaps for some colleagues, that is the key here, making sure that those supporters of President Trump that wanted him to serve a second term, that they feel that they don't come out and in some way offend. I don't view it as offending the Trump supporters. I think, again, whether you were a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter or somebody in between supporter, I think there is a recognition that when we have elections in this country, there's a winner, and then there's the person that doesn't win, the party that doesn't win. And that happens. That happens every 4 years, like clockwork. And so I understand and respect the 74 million people who said, I want President Trump to have a second term. But I would like to think that they too recognize that every 4 years in this country, we hold elections, and those elections will deliver. Sometimes they will deliver a second term, and sometimes they will not. And it is this time that it is clear that the electorate has not delivered a second term for the president.
I know that you did not vote for President Trump in 2016. Did you vote for him this time, Senator?
I've been asked that a couple different times in a couple different ways. And what I've said is, I don't know that my vote for the presidency is so relevant right now. That's not relevant. What is relevant is that the will of the full electorate is respected in again, this transition of power. I don't think it's any great secret that I have been critical of President Trump, but I also think that it's been recognized that I have also been very, very impressed and supportive of many of the matters that have come, particularly to energy related states like the state of Alaska. Some of his policies have been really important to where we are.
You're not going to help me make a little news here, Senator?
I'm going to say it's not relevant now.
It must be difficult being a moderate Republican these days. You all are kind of an endangered species. How do you explain the direction the Republican Party as a whole has taken in recent years?
Well, you know, I was just going to say it's always a challenge being kind of in the middle of the road. I've likened it to the only thing that happens when you're in the middle of the road is you get run over. But I don't think that that's true. I have long been a consensus builder, trying to get folks from both sides to figure out how we make it happen in a way that is going to benefit both sides. But I think it has gotten harder. I think it has, because the polarization on both sides, on both extremes, just seems to have just gotten that much further apart. Instead of being able to be in the middle of the road, you've got these really deep ditches on either side. And so it has been harder. I think it's also made harder when there's just fewer that are willing to stand in that middle, to make that crossover, if you will, and it has become harder. And I think that some of it is the pressure from outside groups that are just so absolute. It is all or nothing. It is 100%. And if you fold, or it's perceived that you have folded on one little tiny area, it's off with your head. I mean, it's just so absolute that it makes it hard to try to stay, not only to try to stay in the center, but to try to bring others into that space.
Moving forward, if the Republicans maintain control of the Senate, you, Susan Collins, Joe Manchin, and Mitt Romney are expected to be the new power brokers with the ability to make or break certain things, or to usher in a new era of compromise. Do you see that?
I do think that there is an opportunity to build areas of consensus. And quite honestly, I think that comes when you have divided government. And so you mentioned, when the Senate, when the Republicans begin this new Congress and we have a majority, I do hope that Georgia turns out that way and the Senate does remain in Republican hands. And I do think then, when you have that divided government between the two bodies in the Congress and the White House, I think there is room for those who are viewed as being more centrist to try to bring about some good work. And I'm looking forward to being part of that good work.
But do you believe that Mitch McConnell will make it his mission to refuse to compromise on anything from the White House, as many people believe he did, Senator, at the beginning of the Obama administration?
I think he was pretty clear at the beginning of the Obama administration. I believe he made a statement to the effect that, part of his mission or a goal was to see that President Obama was a one-term president. So that was not a great secret here. I have not had that direct conversation with Leader McConnell, but one thing that I know about Leader McConnell is that he has said many, many times that divided government gives us opportunities. And I know that he believes that. He has been around this arena for a long, long time. And I think he knows where it is possible to make good deals happen. I think the other thing that I personally find very hopeful is Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden, as two senators, have had an opportunity to work with one another, observe one another over the years, have a relationship. Now you have Leader McConnell and you have President-elect Biden, but you still have two men that have a history with one another. And when Joe Biden, not senator, but then vice president, was dealing with Leader McConnell, they were able to make some pretty substantial deals. And so that relationship has been built on. And I truly believe that Mitch McConnell wants what is best for the country, as does President-elect Biden want what is best for the country.
I know that President-elect Biden has already named a number of his cabinet selections. Do you expect the Republicans, if they again maintain control of the Senate and will be this deciding factor, to confirm those choices? Because I know people are making noises about Neera Tanden, his choice to run the OMB, criticizing her. Nikki Haley said the choice was deeply concerning. Tom Cotton says she has no chance of getting confirmed. What kind of rocky road do you expect some of these cabinet choices to face?
Well, I think it's going to be like any new president coming in and laying out the potentials for his cabinet. I want one of these days to be able to say his or her cabinet. Recognizing that there are some that generate more controversy than others. I think we know that. It doesn't make any difference whether you're Republican or whether you're Democrat. Some of the picks are going to be viewed a little more skeptically. And you have singled out one individual that has received a lot of discussion and commentary that doesn't portend too well for a confirmation. But you think about all the other names that have been presented and floated around, and you're not hearing that, oh my gosh, we're gonna shut the place down. I think you will have Leader McConnell and the Republicans as a conference treat President-elect Biden's nominees in the same manner that we always do. We're going to look at them critically. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk to them, and we're going to make a determination as to whether or not we think that that's going to be an individual that has the credibility, has the reputation, and the experience and the expertise to do the good job that needs to be done.
There is a rumor that President Trump may in fact announce his candidacy for 2024 on the day Joe Biden is inaugurated. Mm-hmm. What is your reaction to that?
Well, this is America. Anybody can run for president. I think it would clearly be unprecedented. The presidential election needs to be over. We need to be able to just take a deep breath and not jump immediately into 2024. I hope we don't jump immediately into 2024.
What would you do if President Trump makes that announcement?
Right? What would I do? I would just say, I guess the elections are beginning already. I think that that's unfortunate. I think the people need a break from the presidential politics. You know, think about what we do around here. We are running for office all the time. We fundraise, we campaign. When do we govern? When do we govern? When do we take on these really difficult issues? Whether it is the sustainability of our social security system, or whether it's issues related to justice and public safety, or immigration, or our relationships around the world. We gotta, at some point in time, can we stop the campaigns just for a minute, give the people some breathing room, and do what we ran for, what we asked the people for the privilege to do, which is to serve them in an elected capacity, not in an elected capacity to run for the next term, but to actually do the work that they sent us here to do. And so I am all about trying to give the electorate a little bit of breathing space, and for us to figure out how we as a nation are going to be moving forward. It has been a hell of a year with COVID. This is how we started off the interview here this afternoon. It has been hard on everybody. And it has been heartbreaking as families have suffered their own personal losses due to the coronavirus. Let's try to start 2021 with perhaps a better view and a better attitude about who we are and what we can be doing together, instead of constantly seeking to divide and to destruct. And I hope that we can be better in 2021.
I hate to ask you this question with that, eloquent plea to everyone, but do you believe it's within Donald Trump's power to pardon himself?
It's, in my view, it's so unprecedented. I hadn't even thought about it until I see it reflected in the news. It's just not something that I think we think is even possible. So lawfully, may it be? I can't imagine, because I just don't imagine that we ever even thought that could be an option.
Do you sometimes scratch your head and say, how did I end up in cuckoo land?
It's almost like you're in an alternate universe sometimes when you come here, because it doesn't reflect what's going on back home. And I think this is where I get my base, I get my grounding again. I go back home and you're with people who are talking about, whether or not the fish runs were good this year, so that people have food in their freezer and a little bit of money to pay the mortgage. Parents are stressed about what's going on because schools are almost all virtual, and nobody has the capacity to hook in and connect all their kids and telework. And winter's coming on, and the restaurants are closed down, and they say, well, just eat outside. Well, that's not happening. People are not talking about some of this, the speculation about whether or not it's possible for a sitting president to pardon himself. They're not talking about that. They're talking about what is real in their world right now. And that's where we need to be focused. That's where our energies need to be.
If you guys like what you see, subscribe right here.